Let's do this. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Douglas A. Welton, and I'm the chairman of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission. I'd like to welcome you to our June 17th, 2025 Planning Committee meeting. We are meeting here in room 280 at the Government Center, 600 East 4th Street. If you'd like to follow along online, we're being streamed on the Planning Department's YouTube page. It's exciting. You can play it back later if you find that you need a second hit of the party that we're going to have this evening. We begin all of our meetings by doing introductions of the commission, and we will do the same tonight. We will begin all the way to my left with Commissioner Gaston.
Melissa Gaston, Planning Commission.
Rebecca Wilden, Planning Commission.
Carolyn Millen, Planning Commission.
Will Russell, Planning Commission.
Michael Caprelli, Planning Commission.
Terry Lansdale, Planning Commission.
Thank you very much. We will do staff introductions as well, and we will begin all the way to my left with my favorite staff member, Jason.
Jason Pauling, Planning Staff.
Yay!
Zanya Duhaney, Planning Staff.
Kathy Cornett, Planning Staff.
Monica Holmes, Interim Planning Director.
Catherine Mahoney, Planning.
Jay Rankins with MIG supporting the planning staff.
Erin Henson, Planning Staff.
Thanks, Jay. It's lovely to see you back in the building. I haven't seen you in a couple of years since 2040 plan stuff, but hopefully you're having fun here and nobody's being mean to you. Okay, well, that's exciting, and we'll go forward from there and hope for good things. Next order of business is for us to do approvals of the May 20th, 2025 meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion for the disposition of those meeting minutes?
Commissioner Gaston, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the May 20th, 25 meeting, please.
Commissioner Millen, second.
That has been moved by Commissioner Gaston and properly seconded by Commissioner Millen. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. So we will go on to our business for the evening, which is the part that makes Jason my favorite person to have here. We have a whole lot of planning of mandatory referrals this evening. Does anybody feel that they need to pull one of these mandatory referrals out for any discussion separate from all of those issues?
I want to pull 25, 27
Okay.
for discussion.
All right. That was zippy. Gosh. Yeah. It's almost like you two were reading each other's minds there. Do we have a presentation for that? Go ahead.
All right.
Okay. Do you have ask your question.
Okay. So I think I just have so I was looking at this and saw that there are gas stations nearby that are in like the zoning process right now. But my understanding is that according to the UDO, unless I'm misremembering, gas stations need to be conditional, but they're in here they were what's the word? Yeah, are gas stations conditional under the UDO? Is kind of my question, because there's going to be one built like right there on this. And I'm just worried about like the impact of that and like that sort of situation. Conventional, yes.
So you mean on these three parcels, there's a gas station?
No.
Okay.
There's a zoning right next to this that is supposed to be gas station. And I just have questions about that whenever I was like digging into these. And I was like, are gas stations supposed to be conditional and not conventional?
This thing.
Is it okay if we follow up with you
Yeah,
on
I was
that?
about to say.
To be clear, I was gonna vote in favor of this, but I was like, when I was digging into this, I was like, I think that's against the UDO unless I'm like not understanding it.
Was there a prescribed conditions thing that you were thinking about there maybe?
Just that my.
Yeah, the Sam Spencer clause, I think is the way we refer to it.
Yeah, the Sam Spencer clause.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that I pushed him to put in there, but yeah, it's whatever.
Okay.
Just say this on those rezoning petitions is that they're both really, there's two proposed gas stations in the Harris Boulevard corridor They're both in the early rezoning petition bucket, which means they haven't had staff analysis written about them yet. So
Okay,
like more to come. I
Okay.
don't want to get ahead of the process in regards to like what
Okay.
they are.
yeah, I noticed that like it was gonna be a while, and so I was like, can't wait to talk about these when I'm on zoning. Because that'll be fun. I don't think I've ever voted for a gas station. But yeah, that was just something I like, that popped up when I was looking at when I was digging in. And that worried me a little bit with gas stations near a park that is going to be used by a lot of residents. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Any other mandatory referrals that someone would like to pull? If not, can we see the verbiage, please? Do we have someone who will be reading the verbiage?
The Planning Committee reviewed mandatory referral reports 2523, 2524, 2525, 2526, 2527, 2528, 2529, 2530, 2531, 2532, and 2533 on June 17th, 2025, and have no additional comments for the submitting agency.
Yes, does anyone second that reading of the words? Commissioner Russell said. Of the words, please say aye.
Aye. So we have the presentation that we made at Transportation and Planning Committee about a week ago. We're happy to run through that. We're happy to take this as, if you want to move straight to discussion, or we're happy to go through the presentation. It's up to you.
The light version of the presentation.
Sure.
Just because Kathy had sent out a point of this, the video of that. Some of us may have looked at it, some of us may not, so that's why I'll say the light version.
So I'll move pretty quickly through the setup slides because I think you all are very familiar with these, that the plans are really about creating complete communities where you have access to all your daily needs within proximity to where you live, work, and play. And from the historical context, which I don't know that we've reviewed this with this group before, but that this is really a 10-year body of work, beginning with Connect Our Future, which was a regional growth framework that was undertaken by Central Atlantic Council of Governments in 2012, another 3-year effort that was a 14-county effort, of which Charlotte was part. And it really introduced the place types tool to our region. Place types are not a new tool, but it was new for us. And it's a best practice nationwide. So that led to us looking at our own land use policies. We had at that time started early stages of the UDO. And so we knew that we needed to modernize our policy tools as well as our regulatory tools. And what that resulted in was the understanding that 25% of our community had the most up-to-date guidance, had small area plans and other things that had kind of moved through time and incorporated land use and transportation components and design guidelines and other things. And almost 75% of the community was using policy guidance that dated to the 80s and 90s. That really began us thinking about how can we introduce the place type tool to our region, and if we do it to our community, and if we do that and we update all of our policy guidance, will there be gaps in terms of those 80-something small area plans that we had as current guidance and our district plans. So we went through a very thorough research testing the place types and found that they really provided in many cases more robust guidance, and there was no gap between the more recent small area plans and that tool. And then that obviously led into us developing the comprehensive plan, which was adopted then in 2021. Thank you. And I think, as you all know, the comprehensive plan is our umbrella document, and the comprehensive plan lays out a policy framework, which is shown here for our policies and plans moving forward. So the comprehensive plan adopted in 2021 was an overarching document, and the second level or second tier would be strategic plans. Examples of those would be the strategic mobility plan, the strategic energy action plan, again, citywide. The third level are these community area plans, which takes the goals of the comprehensive plan and then applies them down at the smaller geography level. Those three pieces together are a foundation for planning for our community. And I know there's been a lot of talk throughout this process and in the comments about wanting very specific looks at things or more specific details that are not found in this level, in the community area planning level. But those are, that is a section that of our toolbox that we are currently modernizing. So small area plans they were a great tool for where we were 20 years ago, but where we are today, we need a more robust toolbox with a variety of different types of action plans that can address specific issues and focus on implementation and build off of the work in the community area plans. That's the work that we actually, that's why Jay and Avery are here in town. We really began that work in earnest today. And all of this ties, as you know, to our legal tools as well and our ordinances. And as you know, this has been a 5-step process with deliverables along the way that we began in 2023, and we are now in the review and adoption, the final phase of that. And that includes not only the 14 community area plans, but a program guide that applies to all of them, and then a refined policy map, so a revised policy map as well. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Catherine, and she'll, I forgot that, Leslie.
Surprise.
Yeah. I have one more slide that I had, I'm sorry. So if you're really looking at what is the value and impact, what's the high level, what's in this for me, what's in this as an appointed official, for elected officials, for the community, for the development community, the big takeaways or the impact would be 100% coverage at the most up-to-date level of guidance. Everyone has been brought along at the same level playing field. We're not operating with some portions of the community having more recent guidance than others. And it's really foundational work that sets us up for the work that we'll be doing moving forward. It provides very clear criteria for change in neighborhoods and clearer directions for rezonings and how we are evaluating rezonings. It's a very transparent process and aligns our decision-making with our equitable and smart growth strategy. It memorializes the strategic investment areas, the potential projects in that body of work. That's the only place that is done. And you can actually see it at the community level in each of the 14 different geographies. It identifies needs through the needs assessments that we talked about. So that is something that is very new. The needs assessments for mobility, open space placemaking projects, and also in terms of environmental impacts throughout the community. And that can help prioritize our resources. It can help in development proposals, and it can help neighborhoods in advocating what is most needed in their geography. And finally, the work around environmental impacts, like the heat impact work that is in there, that is all emerging and new work for Charlotte that we continue to grow. And this is really the first time that we've really had that robust of a component in our plans. And now I'll turn it over to Catherine to.
The mouse, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. All right, so
last month, we've released the plans in April and we've continued to provide in-person and online opportunities for feedback. This slide reflects kind of our latest engagement numbers. So before the plans were released, we were at about 400,000 interactions online and in person. That's risen significantly within just the last few months. Our in-person interactions were at about 6,000. We've almost increased that to 500 just during the last few months. And then the comments were at 1,700. Those were used to inform the draft plans. And then we've received another 800 or so since then, which you'll see reflected in our proposed changes tonight. So just again, kind of reiterate, we have used a lot of notification tactics and engagement options. This is a reminder that council asked us to add an additional option, which was that webinar on May 15th, and it was well attended by about 100 people. And so over the last few months, we've received over 800 comments. And this is a table that we looked at last month together to kind of give you the breakdown of the type of comments. When we spoke last month, the numbers I think were at about 600. And so with the 200 increase, the percentage is very similar. There's still a level of support at about 7%. We saw a slight increase in the numbers of suggestions. There's still a good number of questions and some concerns, which are really a continuum of concerns that we've heard since development of the comprehensive plan. Will, you had a question?
Yes, Catherine. So seeing that we have 40% concerns, what was the biggest one? What was the biggest through thread of concerns?
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit more, but in general, the concern around the pace of growth, and that is not new, right? People continue to be concerned, like, are we growing? Can we accommodate this growth? We're growing so fast, there's so much change. And so that's that's probably the biggest theme of that 40%. But I do have some other ones later on in the presentation. So, support at 7%, these quotes kind of give you an idea of what some people like in the plans. So a comment about liking the different housing types that are existing in some neighborhoods and support for encouraging that in other places like our duplexes and quadruplexes. There was a comment in support of the medium density development within a close proximity of their home. So kind of those centers that are dispersed throughout the community, they like that idea. There was support for the placemaking aspirations as identified in that assessment table. And so they like the idea of aspiring to having more of a sense of place and character. And then a nice final comment saying the West Middle document is an impressive tool for future growth. So just an example of some of the things we did here. In terms of the suggestions, so I said, there's about a third of the comments that are a level of suggestion. And of that third, 35% have been incorporated in our proposed changes. So I want to focus really on those proposed changes tonight, but then Will, to your point, I can get to some of the concerns. So with the proposed changes, you can really categorize into these 4 buckets. So we have some that relate to new content or new policies, some that help improve the clarity and the quality of the document, and then some related to next steps. And I think now would be a good time to pass out this document. I just keep one for reference. So as I go through the next few slides, you can see on this handout, the new proposed changes would be here. New is grouping all those proposed changes together. Then I'll go into the bucket of clarity, the bucket of quality, and the bucket of next steps. These are the proposed changes verbatim. Okay, so I just want you to have this for a kind of a level of confidence and transparency. But what I'll be speaking from on the slides is just high level, so we can move through it a little bit quicker. So in terms of new content, as Kathy described, a lot of feedback is very curious about that 4th level of planning, the specific plans. They want to know what type of plans are going to be available and when you would do them, that sort of thing. So we're proposing to add details in the program guide. So that applies to all 14 geographies about the type of plans that would be available in this fourth bucket, or fourth level of guidance, excuse me. And then the prioritization criteria for when you would implement or execute one of those types of plans. So this should give the community a good level of information about when we would do these types of plans. There is also kind of more specifically been a lot of comments requesting an environmental justice action plan at this fourth level. So we think that's a wonderful idea, and we will reflect that in the program guide as being a plan in the level 4 toolbox. We will also provide guidance for what you can expect out of that plan, and again, the prioritization criteria for when you would initiate it. We've heard feedback about needing to ensure that development in our extraterritorial jurisdiction is in line with our infrastructure, or I'm sorry, our utility capacity. And so we are proposing to include a recommendation as shown here on the slide, and it would be item number 4 on your sheet. So to ensure delivery of adequate public services, consider utility capacity, road maintenance, emergency services, and evacuation routes when evaluating entitlements, either through the city-led or privately initiated rezoning. Then there's also a revision to a current policy in the document, policy EJ7, talks about encouraging cooling amenities at areas impacted by heat. Through our feedback, we've also seen that we can incorporate cool surfaces as another mitigation tactic. So we're suggesting to integrate, I said cool surfaces, smart surfaces is I think the official term, but it would be like a light colored pavement or a light color roof, things that help reflect heat in these areas that are impacted by it. Sure.
With that, lead over into perhaps allowing tree cover for places that people might not want to think of, like a parking deck or, stuff like that, or was that even something they use?
I think some of the other policies in the EJ section would encourage that. So there's, I think EJ 6, or I'd have to look at a plan.
Okay.
But areas impacted by heat should be prioritized for things like more tree plantings. The when and like where and exactly how the trees plantings happen would be up to the tree program. So moving into the clarity bucket, you can see there's a lot more of those proposed changes. A lot of them, well, let me, probably the most helpful clarity improvement. The policy map is a very important tool that we have, and that's in the Creating Complete Communities chapter. I think we've been using place types for so long, we just assume everyone understands what the colors are intended to convey. But we've seen through these comments, it would be really helpful to put the place type descriptions right next to the map so people can better interpret what the map is trying to say. In addition to that, we talk about the types of change expected in the geography in a narrative form. And it's been suggested that we circle areas of change. And so that's what we will be doing as a change. Kind of similar.
Is there a challenge with that in the sense that, when people see it on a map, you said this is going to happen. Notion. All right. If you say, this area that's on the fringe of an industrial section,
Mm-hmm.
and you give it some circle, are people going to buy into saying, oh, you said that was going to change? You set people's expectations and you do things like that. I'm not saying that that's not a valid strategy. I'm just devil's advocate.
So in that example of, we are recommending that neighborhoods stay. And we did not designate new manufacturing really, or like expansive new manufacturing. So the areas that we would circle would be the more concentrations, like an existing commercial place that is recommended to go to a neighborhood center. So we're not going to outline every small parcel. It would be the larger areas of change as described in that narrative. And then also kind of expanded on if you remember, there's 4 anticipated types of change that are predominant in that geography. That's what we would be circling and highlighting.
Okay, all right, yeah, okay.
So the assessment tables, we've talked about these, they're really intended to be used by the private development community, staff who are programming dollars and prioritizing projects, and also the community to advocate in kind of a unified fashion for improvements that would help advance our vision. So again, through comments, it's kind of become clear that we need to include kind of an instructional guide about how these are intended to be used, because that intent did not land well with what's currently in there. Then, as we've discussed, an index and a glossary would be very helpful. We've seen that we didn't include the urban heat methodology in the appendix, so these types of changes are related to clarity. Then moving into quality, there are a lot of changes that are related to improving the legibility of maps. And so some of these changes will be adding neighborhood names to the profile map, that first map, so people can kind of orient themselves and know where they are within the city. Adding the ETJ boundary, the Catawba River as just a major landmark, and then some more street names and that sort of thing. And there's kind of one-off map changes that you see detailed in this catalog. There's also a few changes really related to the implementation section. So this is not intended to be adopted by council. It's a staff reference document. And so the community wants to really make that clear. And so we'll be bolding the disclaimer that's in that introduction. We'll also be adding bolding some disclaimers on the illustrative concepts and making it very clear that people know it is not a guarantee nor an endorsement of what should be built. And then finally, there's a number of Scrivener errors, which will be addressed. And in terms of next steps, one of the wonderful suggestions that we received at our office hours was to keep basically doing that, having these small one-on-one conversations where you can provide real life examples to whomever you're speaking with about how the plan would serve them. So if you're in this geography, let's look at your map and talk about the types of change recommended in your area. And we think we can do this by basically developing a roadshow where you have both an in-person and a virtual version. And the plan would be to just attend a certain number of community meetings every month for the indefinite future. To help people understand how these are supposed to be used. The roadshow would also apply internally to staff and officials, again, to kind of help everybody understand how we're supposed to be using these. Then there's the rezoning staff analysis. So we've talked about how these plans are really going to be implemented through our rezoning process and our capital investment process. That's been a presentation in the past. And so for the rezoning process, we will update the memo to reflect the policies within the plan. So the memo would start with, your orienting information, but then we would reference the greatest needs and prioritize goals for the geography. As you move through the document, any policies that are relevant, maybe neighborhood change policies would be referenced.
2040 plan came in, and I haven't done zoning last year, so I'm not sure the staff analysis looks the same. But it used to have in the back,
The goals.
the goals thing. But that went away, didn't it? Or got modified?
I can't speak to whether it went away. I think it's still a consideration.
Is it still in the back? I just haven't looked at it.
I believe as we've moved on, it's become more robust because at first it was just the goals and then we've kind of enhanced it somewhat.
Didn't necessarily have all the context in the world. And what I want to say is, there's so much stuff in the staff analysis. If we keep adding things to it, let's just make sure it's useful stuff in a way that people don't say, oh, that part, I didn't read that part because I read this other part and that was just at the end, blah, blah, blah. Just, how it's used and how it comes across to people, just have that be
So when the area plans get adopted, the next step after that will be doing an entire training around, I mean, the rezoning staff analysis is getting a major overhaul because of all this updated policy and including other information as well. And so as soon as that happens, we have drafts already prepared of new staff analysis. It'll be getting a major overhaul and we'll make sure kind of
Okay.
clarity and concise. And we'll be doing trainings with y'all and trainings with city council because it will also come with a package of other rezoning process enhancements altogether.
Okay,
So that, anyways, that
Yeah.
was scheduled to be in August. We cannot obviously update the staff analysis until we have adopted policy
okay.
that can be used. So
Yeah, I didn't want it to grow like the old development ordinance of sticking one more piece of gum underneath the chair in the first grade class. Okay, just saying.
Imagery that you put in my mind.
Were you ever in the first grade?
No,
Okay, I skipped first grade too. There.
spreadsheet.
Yeah, she's the spreadsheet woman, so there's that. Thank you very much.
And then the requests for specific projects are going to be passed along to our partners like CDOT and Park and Rec and Charlotte Area Transit that implement and build these very specific projects that really are outside the scope of our area plans. So that's kind of the next step. And as partners, they all, they have received feedback from the community along the way. They have committed to integrating this feedback into their kind of catalogs and using the feedback from community area planning in the future identification and prioritization of their projects.
So is that saying share request for specific projects? Is that meaning like the mobility plan or the SIAs?
That's a great, yeah. So the request for a turning lane here is going to CDOT and they are putting it in the right program. That would fund that sort of thing. A bus stop would go to CATS and it would go into their funding.
It's a sorting game.
It's a sorting, but a commitment to recognizing and integrating the feedback in their efforts.
I will just say I second the notion of doing a roadshow just when I go out. I get that feedback and it would be wonderful if it was almost continuous. I know you can't go to a different neighborhood every day, but there's so many neighbors out there that I feel like they don't know what they don't know. They're frustrated that they don't know, et cetera, et cetera. And, general government complaint. The more you can get out there and talk to people one-on-one, the better the situation is. I love the virtual shows that were done. I'm sorry, that's not the case, but if that's the best route that we have for getting to people, then we have to do that. But
So I think what we're imagining is, an in-person, you have a community meeting. The fire department has a good list of monthly meetings. And so starting there, let's get on these calendars or these agendas and we can share information in person, but we'll also package it online. And so if you like what you hear and you want to share it with neighbors, we can give you a link to go to and to pull that information. So we know that in person is very important, that one-to-one, that face-to-face conversation. So those are the proposed changes, kind of in summary. And again, they are cataloged and outlined in detail here. And so based on what you guys decide to do later, you would reference this document.
okay.
In terms of concerns, I'm happy to continue if you'd like to hear this. Okay. So a lot of the questions, which I don't consider negative in nature, they really are just kind of curious questions, but also concerns fall into kind of these four categories. So concerns about future growth, questions and concerns about infrastructure, trade-offs, how can you do this when we say we care about that? And then some very technical questions and concerns. So again, the concerns are really centered around future growth. There's a general opposition to growth. You guys have heard that. We all know that. And our response is no action is a choice and it will have negative impacts. And so these plans are very important to ensure that the growth happens in a thoughtful way and in a way that benefits everyone. again, also to Kathy's, point about we are offering 100% coverage here, which is a huge value for the community. There is some disagreement with the growth strategy, which we have said over and over is three things: aligning growth with our infrastructure capacity, respecting neighborhoods, and creating mixed centers across the city. So some people want more density or less density in any given spot, and that is fair. We think we have struck a very good balance in that the policy map can accommodate the projected growth. So it can accommodate 400,000 residents, 168,000 units, and 200,000 jobs. The growth projections that came from the regional model.
That was 2020 time, right? Or has been updated since?
The model, it was based on 2040, but the model was set in 2020.
Yes, I believe it is 2018 data.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I mean.
We've maintained continuity with the same model throughout all of the
At some point in
planning
time,
efforts.
Model is either going to be pretty well designed or not, and that's what the assessments.
So that was the second iteration of this model. It wasn't like the first time we'd ever used it, and it continues. And again, it's a regional growth model. Version 3.0 was just completed this past year. We will work to move updates we do in the future to better line up with the model run. The model is federally mandated, so it is a federal schedule. So we can't align the model to us. We got to align our process to the model, and we do have a strategy moving forward for doing that. It's not like it's drastically different, but it'll make things much easier. And also the model is used throughout the city by CATS, by CDOT, CRTPO. CDOT actually is the custodian of the model with planning.
But, we feel like we have a map that accommodates the growth. And then we also have the minor map amendment criteria, which provides that flexibility, recognizing that the map can only, there's limitations in one document, right? One map. And so that criteria that we've talked about ensures that changes to the map are evaluated consistently and in line with our vision. So we feel like we've struck a nice balance there.
Looking at 1 and 2, particularly on 1. Of the 3 things under CAP, self-managed growth 5, all 3 of those things are in conflict or contradict each other. And I hear you saying that you're striking that balance, but how are we conveying that balance to the public? Because I don't think that the public understands it based on the comments that I've received. And I also think that when we're talking about the public, they don't feel that development is predictable. And that's what's causing the heartache with all of this. All the concerns are based in, you strip away everything. People don't know where stuff is going and when it's going to come. And that's the fundamental tension that's driving everything. And so how are we conveying that balance has been struck between respecting the neighborhood, but creating a walkable neighborhood?
I mean, I think as we've developed the policy map and the area plans, we've tried to explain that your centers, your neighborhood, your community, and your regional activity center, these are the areas that are going to experience the most change. They'll see the most growth and intensification, and they're not located in the middle of established neighborhoods. They're located along high-capacity transit corridors where the infrastructure capacity is or is planned to be. So that gets to the first 2. We're aligning it with the capacity. And a lot of them, I know that, their transit corridors are not, there's that spoke and wheel system, but then the neighborhood centers are scattered throughout kind of the wedges. So that's the infrastructure capacity and the dispersion of mixed use centers. And then what's left is respecting the neighborhoods. That's why there's still 60% of yellow on the map. So we've tried to explain that. I mean, these 3 bullets have been in so much content that we've produced and shared, but I recognize to the layman that doesn't always land.
There's not a solution to that, though, to tell you the truth. And respecting every layman, quote unquote, out there. This can get explained a lot to people. And, you know, I beat back at you guys about jargon all the time. So with love, but, you know, we take that jargon out and we go to plain language. You know, average age for, average reading level for a person in the city is 8th grade. And I've talked about how the intro to the plans gets a 17, which is 9 grades above 8th grade. So that sets a tone. All right, that's fine. It is rational to cut out at that point and not want to play with this at all. And that's what a lot of people do. And they find themselves over on this side where they don't know what's going on. And they feel like, oh, I can't figure this out. And they won't, because they have a reason to be rationally ignorant. And we can say, let's try harder. We can have more meetings. And I'm in favor of the roadshow because that, I think, is the best way to do it. But the flip side is you can lead a horse to water. You cannot make that horse, you know, play go or whatever. And so, you know, I think it's valid for staff to say we are doing everything we can, but we can't pour it into everybody's mind. And there are going to be people out there who don't want you to pour it into their mind. Honestly, they've come to a rational conclusion that that's just not what they want to do. And you know, here's a solution. I don't want a solution. I just want to be mad. Right? I mean, we've probably all been in that meeting, and mad wins every time. So I digress.
You know, the last thing I'll offer is to your point about transparency and understanding what the expectation is. I think these area plans fill an important gap about, you know, specifically the criteria about change in neighborhood and the minor map amendment criteria. We're being as transparent as we can without, you know, basically dictating what happens on every site in the city. So in terms of infrastructure, with every planning process, everybody wants more near me, more please. And so, you know, more road projects, more sidewalk projects, more greenways, more parks. And the message here is that these area plans cannot catalog and commit to every wish out there. They set the framework for how growth should occur, and then the framework for how infrastructure will support it. And so memorializing the strategic investment area work does that, you know, that those SIAs support the policy map and where growth is projected to go. The assessment tables provide that direction for both private and public investments in the future. You know, it says this is what's needed to really meet our aspirations. The toolkit outlines some of the programs that are available today to residents to take advantage of. And then, as I mentioned, those requests for specific projects are going to be shared with partners and added to their program lists. And then also related to infrastructure, there's questions and concerns about the impact on city services. And so an important thing that happened with the comprehensive plan was Department of Transportation, CATS, water, ourselves. We all started using the same growth projections that were described from the regional level. Then through the policy map, we continued coordination and everyone understands what that map means in terms of where growth is going. I like to give the example of, you know, unexpected water needs in South End. That's not going to happen again. And then moving forward, we're formalizing this coordination on a regular, those growth projections are developed every 3 to 4 years. And so regular touch points with these departments to make sure that we continue to use the same one and share any, you know, lessons learned or kind of discussion about those moving forward. So the point to make is that we are planning our growth in a coordinated way, and all facility planning should be based on the same numbers and understand where the growth is planned to go. In terms of trade-offs, there's a lot of questions about how can you protect our tree canopy and grow our open space, but still accommodate this development. And so we, again, feel like we've struck a nice balance of providing room for growth, but also through goal 8 of the comprehensive plan and some of the supporting CAP policies and our UDO regulations, we are requiring more tree save, we're requiring open space, and we will continue to monitor the efficacy, or that's the right word, but the, you know, how well this policy and regulation pairing works over time. And if we need to tweak things, we will, like the tree canopy action plan. In terms of environmental justice, we continue to hear the concerns about neighborhoods next to manufacturing. And you all came to a lot of the workshops in phase 2 where we were looking at that condition on the map and asking people what we should do. Ultimately, the community felt both neighborhoods and manufacturing are important. And so from a mapping perspective, we didn't change anything, but that's how the environmental justice policies were developed in the plan. So it says things like, we should not build new neighborhoods and establish manufacturing. When manufacturing is next to neighborhoods, we should encourage the edges to transition to something like commercial or innovation mixed use. And we should also look to increase vegetative buffers and other mitigating tactics where neighborhoods are adjacent to manufacturing. So those policies are kind of the first step at trying to improve this over time. And then in coordination with partners, they would look like sustainability, tree canopy. Through the environmental justice action plan, we can get more tactical and recommend specific projects for where this condition occurs. And then the level of detail as described, those that had a small area plan from 2008 to 2015, they like the level of detail in those plans and want to see it here. The trade-off is that only covered 27% of our city. And so it's not necessarily we have less detail, there's less of a need for that level of detail because what was included in those plans is now baked into the place types, the comprehensive plan goals, and now the CAP supportive policies as well as our UDO regulations. So last, I think everyone's getting a little.
Good question. Is there a fear that now that it's baked into all of those things that people won't have one place to look and they may miss something if it's not, you know, in theory, it flows down from 2040 plan. Is that the place I would look first if I were to and I can't think of an example, but you know what I'm saying is if it's baked into all of these different levels, is it explicit enough that I know a path to follow to get the answer?
That probably needs to be part of the roadshow. I think the area plans do the best job of describing the relationship of all of these policies.
Okay.
And, you know, being more area specific can be more relatable to whomever is reading it.
And that's a lesson back to us, because if we're out in the community talking to folks, then we need to point them in the right direction sometimes. And it is point you back to, at this point in time, small area plan or the community, those things.
Yeah, what he said.
Hey, so Jason, it's your fault. Anyway, but yeah, we just need to point them to the right document.
And Catherine, one other thing, this is more of a comment or a suggestion for the tree canopy. So I've seen, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but like the tree canopy is going down and a lot of that is being blamed on the single family homeowner cutting down trees in one-offs. And so that leads me to say two things. One, for the community area plans, I think it's important that the community area plan sets the tone on how that's going to be addressed. Is that going to be addressed in a collaborative fashion, an adversarial fashion, or in a like very overly restrictive way? And then that flows into the UDO, which is the actual law part of that. So I would ask like as a recommendation that you really take a lot of time thinking about how that should be addressed. Because I think the knee-jerk reaction is going to be, well, we'll just slap a regulation and a permit on it and that'll stop it. And so I wonder if there's a better way to like address that or start thinking about how you're gonna preserve tree canopy, not only on single family homes, but how can you, as a cap plan, get that to filter into the UDO to add some innovation to preserving trees.
More rules always makes things better.
Right, that's what I'm trying to.
That may be wrong.
Yeah, so the place types do talk about a percentage of tree canopy that's expected. And so to your point about it, it is a collaborative effort, like all places across the city are expected to contribute to the canopy. And then there are regulations. The action plan is really that next level of detail that will tease out, you know, what else is needed between place types and the current regulation. The technical comments and concerns, you know, there are a fair number of like, what does this mean? You know, does this mean X, Y, and Z? And so in those instances, staff responded to the question, you know, trying to restate the intent of what they were reading or cross-referencing another part of the plan that would help explain the position. So we really just tried to be as responsive to all those comments as possible. There were comments and questions about the data that was used and our methodologies. All of those have been documented in the appendix, and so we let people know that that's there. And then in terms of implementation and accountability, you know, there's always that skepticism of, well, this is great, but is it actually going to happen? And so committing to that roadshow and the rezoning update is what we, you know, are able to do now. And then so that helps guarantee that these plans will be implemented both through the rezoning and then our capital investments in the future. So with that, just kind of a reminder of the value and impact of these area plans, and we'll go through them again. And I think we'll turn it over to you either for discussion or questions. And then once adopted, the actions on the slide, I think the timeline would, you know, depend on when council took action, but these are kind of our next steps.
Thank you very much, Catherine, Kathy, for the slides. Folks, we've had many months of discussion around this, but I'm going to open the floor up now. If anybody has any final bits of comment that they would like to make, I'm saying that I'm going to call this to a vote, particularly because I want to, first and foremost, don't want this to get caught up in our committee swap over. So we really do need to get this done. Second, I'll save my other comments for later, but does anybody have any comments that they'd like to enter right now? Commissioner Caprioli.
I'm the only commissioner out here in the ETJ, and I really want to thank the commission here for recognizing the ETJ. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, and the 50 to 70 or however many thousands of people are out there, it's nice to see that recognition going forward. Not just for us, but the future of Charlotte too. I can foresee something like what we saw in Los Angeles, where eventually this whole county is going to be Charlotte. Eventually. We don't know when it's going to happen, but it probably will happen because that's exactly what happened in San Francisco to us. So that was nice. The comments I had within that mobility plan, I saw there is something for a community activity center. It's on page of this thing. You probably don't have it. I earmarked it so I wouldn't be sitting here trying to sing the Jeopardy song.
There's a song on Jeopardy?
Yeah, mobility on page 42 for the Southwest Outer. There's a mixed use area out there and it calls for a community activity center. I think that land is for sale.
Which, what's the, identification number?
M8?
M8, okay. So that is the center that is entitled through the Palisades
Yeah.
subdivision plan. And so we are recognizing and respecting those entitlements through these policy recommendations. The for sale, this does not influence the for sale.
Oh, okay. Well, so is there a plan to build
The policy, that blue color
Yeah.
would, that is encouraging a mixed use, moderate density type of development. That's the level of guidance from this plan.
Okay, I thought it was gonna be something like a place where the buses come or the vans come and pick up people.
No,
and-
what this is saying is, so these are the areas that are recommended to become mixed use. And so we know that as areas of change, they're gonna need mobility improvements.
Yeah,
And so over here, you would look at M8
Mhm.
and you can see that this area is deficient in our mobility aspirations
yeah,
to date. And so this becomes a data point for both private and public
Exactly.
development. They should be, future projects should be advancing these aspirations.
right. Yeah, I really don't need more mixed housing out there. What they need is like stores.
Yeah, that's what
that is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. That's great. The environmental justice, does that include the stormwater, the water quality, the erosion control?
Yeah, so at the floodplains,
Here, you want to take this?
sorry.
I just happened to have.
You did? Okay, thank you.
So environmental justice, beginning on page 56. This table, table 6, floodplains,
Mhm.
and that is a metric that is evaluated in part of this assessment. And so kind of recognizing that this like flood prone areas have environmental impacts. And so this becomes a data point again for staff managing projects. that-
Yeah, I'm trying to get beyond the floodplain. I'm trying to get to water quality. Flint, Michigan called and said, by the way, here's a warning light. 2 years ago, Charlotte had a huge warning light. We allowed the construction of a high-risk apartment complex on the shores of Lake Wiley. The erosion runoff from that created an algae bloom in the Boyd Cove. It was just through the sheer act of God that algae bloom did not take over Lake Wiley. Like it did in Castaic, California, we had the exact same thing. It ruined a water supply for northern Los Angeles County. I would just like to see if we can mention something about that for the water, quality within environmental justice.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'll let Kathy respond there.
maybe Kathy knows.
This is, the environmental justice assessment is new content that we hope to grow moving forward. But I would mention too that both city and county stormwater have water quality staff. And I believe they do have water quality programs too. I think they may be in the neighborhood toolkit, but we're happy to circle back with those folks as well.
Yeah, because I know like our area has the highest water quality standards in Mecklenburg County because of that. And because of that bloom, there's now a permanent buoy out there in that cove constantly monitoring that. And the area around the water supply is constantly tested, which we've always passed because of the engineering out there. And tree canopy, to your point, Will, I think why people are cutting down trees, because this happened in our neighborhood, they didn't know they could save the trees. I don't know if we have a tree education plan. I had people that wanted to cut down trees because they thought the trees were dying. They weren't dying, it's just the root ball had to be cleared up. Crepe myrtles wanted to be torn down, but they just had to be trimmed so that they could breathe. That's what I'm finding from homeowners back there in Steel Creek, why they want to cut down trees. They just think they need to come down by they're dying. And I'm like, no, you don't. Plus, if you water them, that helps too. And a huge shout out to land development. The Grand Palisades Parkway, which is part of your mobility plan here, the bonds were released last month or the month before. So we no longer have this mega billion-dollar corporation taking care of the maintenance. You've now got a major thoroughfare that's used by like 5,000 unique car trips a day that's maintained now by 1,500 homeowners. I don't think that's fair, but thank you so much, Monica, for putting me in touch with the land development people who put me in touch with the NCDOT, and NCDOT stepped up and said, yes, we want to see that roadway taken over for public maintenance. So it's going to take a few months, but it was really nice to see government step up instead of saying why, saying why not. So kudos to that. Thank you, Doug.
We got comments from anybody else? Carolyn, is that you?
Yeah, please.
Go for it.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for implementing some changes here. I just real quick, I kept meeting after our last meeting. I kept myself open so I could meet with neighbors in East Side, and actually West Side called me too. I just want to hit on 4 things that I kept hearing, and I think the road shows are going to help a lot with transparency. And a lot of times people just want to feel like they've been heard and they're listened to. So thank you for that. One of the comments was they're watching the place types, and, I'd say half aren't happy with them, half are, but they see the place types and they see the community area plan, but then they see rezonings come up, and just because this is what the vision is, place type and now community area plan, that rezoning can come up and go, well, instead of this being neighborhood 1 or neighborhood services, we want to change it over to building housing or into, it's just, they're not seeing the actual rezoning fit to what the visions are. So that's a concern that they kept putting out to me. Infrastructure, they're saying, the comments I've heard are, it's kind of hard to plan for future infrastructure when a large amount of the city is decades behind on old infrastructure, water, sewer, street maintenance, and that sort of thing. So that was a big concern I kept hearing. Tree canopy, their concerns were taking the trees down for building, but you're planting the trees elsewhere. So if a tree canopy is taken away from a neighborhood, it's being planted in some other area y'all are taking on, which is great. At least we're getting trees, but it's taken away from the actual canopy within the neighborhood. And then the last comment I kept hearing over and over again is East Side particularly wished that there had been town halls for the last year that were centered around this community area plan. So they could have been in person at town halls and that message had gotten across. I would have been thankful for that too, honestly. But those are the main things. I just wanted to make sure you all knew that I was getting comments from in the last month about the community area plans.
Thank you, Carolyn. Commissioner Lansdale?
I got a series of questions, but hopefully they're going to be easy questions for you guys. I think you've heard these before from me, but just to reiterate, it may be on a previous slide. If you may go back to this, just a reminder for the general public and for the folks sitting on the dais who are listening to our comments and evaluations here. But can you just, on that slide that says what these plans are not, I want to kind of reaffirm that my language is correct, that these are not implementation plans. I think that
Sorry, I'm not
was
sure
early
you
on the beginning of where we were for what these plans are not.
Yeah, I don't have,
I'm sorry, I didn't write this slide. They don't have slide numbers. I didn't.
I don't think we have that in here.
It's in back. Okay.
Which one?
You were going too fast. I think it was in that series there.
Oh, the share requests for specific projects with interdepartmental partners. Is that what
No, the next one that she was just on. It's like the middle, it says enlarge implementation disclaimer.
emphasize the implementation guide is not adopted.
something else?
That's right.
Sorry.
Enlarge disclaimer for illustrative concepts and explanatory language. Okay, This is not an implementation plan, is that correct? The
It's
community area plans?
It's an
implementation section, which is not adopted policy.
yeah, not adopted policy.
So just want to make sure that if we have a vote tonight, we're really trying to clarify what we're voting for and what we're not voting for. So if it
Is
maybe.
that in the language?
I was gonna say, we have very detailed language on what you are adopting.
And I just would like to maybe have it said for the record for that about what we're gonna move forward. I do have some hesitation, so if we can't say it clearly in a quick response, I have it here as well, but
I believe that's stated in the program guide. So by adopting the program guide, you're adopting that distinction.
and the recommended edits that we haven't seen yet, but the proposed recommended edits, is that what we're voting for? Something we haven't seen yet?
It's,
Well, these are the edits that we're voting for, right?
Okay. Thank you very much. Just want to kind of clarify because the conversation at the dais has really been about what this is and what this is not, at least from what my ear was hearing. The other piece is that follows along those lines. So is the glossary listed here?
the glossary is not listed here.
Okay, that's an important one. As we were going through your slides, I didn't want to interrupt you. I think other folks had more serious questions than I did, but like policy PFS 1. I was struggling to try to figure,
Well, it said that you were going to do that, so
going, okay, right? Going,
Yeah.
you're gonna be voting to
Mine
approve
says
something.
Add glossary of terms, and so
Number 10. Yeah, right.
the terms that are plenary in nature. would
Just
be
making
the-
sure
Okay.
I'm just trying to get a granular grip on this, so, the last question I'll have before I kind of stop my kind of picking on this for the language piece about what we're about to do in advance of moving this forward to the dais and for the next steps for you guys, but you know, do we have a sense, do we have a statement that we are legally grounding and advancing these plans as they are? Including language around buffers and active mobility and prioritization for transportation. Do we have that legal review in place to move forward with our vote based upon our adoption of community area plan plus recommended edits?
I'm not sure what you're referring to with illegal. These are policy documents, so they're not regulatory documents. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to or.
Yeah, can you expound on that so that when we get at the dais, that this is not going to be a clarity question at the dais? These are policy documents. If you could just give me expound on that. This is a policy document. It's not a legally binding
So
or action.
similar to the comprehensive plan and the policy map, those are policies that then your regulations are written to implement. So this sets the vision. But they're not prescribed like a zoning ordinance, for example, would be.
Right.
But if you're asking if we've reviewed them with our legal staff, yes, we have.
Great, great. That's why I was
Survey questions you could ask.
just trying to, I'm hoping that the folks in the dais will kind of pay attention to what's happening in their committee meetings, because I think we're asked some great questions. So that you don't have to suffer through that at the dais in real time. I would like to take one more point of personal privilege and maybe go back to your phase 5. I think it was the slide numbers 1 and 2 that you said they had issues with, and I'm sorry we don't have, I was trying to get the numbers of slides down, but there we go. You know, I'm going to struggle with this one, aligning development with infrastructure capacity using, what is it, 2018 data sets by CDOT. Just want to kind of recognize that if we truly are going to be advancing a plan, a policy document that embraces 400,000 residents, 160 units, and what was the other piece for the jobs?
200,000 jobs.
200,000 jobs. If it takes 8 minutes to turn left out of one's neighborhood, it's going to take probably a little bit longer. With 400,000 residents, 160 units, and 200,000 more jobs, if we don't have a different model. for how we move the work and play in this community. So I struggle with those, with the questions and concerns, but I apologize for, I thought there was going to be simple ones for what these plans are not, what we're voting on, and kind of where this stands as far as how we're going to adopt these plans to let you do the next layer of work that needs to get done to have these clarifying language, more information provided, and to also share with the community about how we are trying to envision a future that does accommodate 400,000 new residents and 200,000 new jobs. So thank you, and I apologize for any confusion, but I think it's important to have clarity, especially as we move forward for conversations that we've heard at the dais. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Lansdale. Anybody else got any comments that they want to put forward? Commissioner Wilden.
Yeah, so I've been spending the time while we were kind of going over this, looking back at my notes that I took during the hearing, and it seems like everything has kind of been compiled in here. And y'all are trying to address kind of the biggest thing that we heard at the hearing, which I wrote down. I circled.
On spreadsheet somewhere?
Yeah, I circled it. It's somewhere about manufacturing and neighborhoods being so close together and all that fun stuff. But I really appreciate kind of like making sure that we integrate some sort of environmental justice in here. And there was another one that I was just like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? Great note. Which was making sure to add in the red line and the approved transit stops into as many maps as we possibly could. I was like, oh damn, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, so I hate that person took that from me, but I'm glad it's gonna happen. I know, I should have put it on my spreadsheet. What was I thinking? Yeah. But yeah, I just want to thank y'all for all your work on this. And I've had great conversations as well. And I think kind of putting us on a road show, like with also kind of like get out there, talk to people, I thought was really helpful as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Anybody else? Don't make me talk. Yeah. just
Can I ask one other question? On the site for, what is it, development by me, near me, you can go to, is there something if it's not already there, that can be a scan and a reference to going directly to all these different ones? Because that's something else I've heard is if you're just Joe Layman trying to go on the City of Charlotte website, it can be very difficult and time consuming because it's not if you're working it all day long, you can go right and left. Neighbors are going, how do I find this? And they get, you got like 2 to 3 minutes of somebody's mindset of them doing something. So I was wondering if you can add that to the development near me and a scan that will direct them to all these sources. They can go straight there like that.
Yeah, we can certainly look into that.
Okay.
Yeah, happy to do that.
That's a good idea.
Good. Carolyn, you're right, because it is, and I have an idea about this, Monica. I'll talk to you about it another time.
The next copy we have will be focused on.
Yeah. Got anything, Sameless? Good? Well, talked enough already? All right. Talked out. All right, folks, it's about time for us to call a vote on this thing. And this is what I was thinking today, and I could end right there and there'd be many jokes, right? But as you all know, I'm one of the greatest readers of Stoic philosophy. And there's a piece that I've always really appreciated from Seneca, and it's, if you don't know where you're going to, no wind is a good wind. And what this plan and these set of plans, the 2040 plan, the community area plans is about, is putting a direction on where planning is going with the city. Simple as that. And we have all run into folks, and I appreciate, let me just say this committee has taken this very seriously, and I'm proud of you all for doing that. That's great. People have read through the documents, you've gone out, you met with people, you've been in the trenches with this. And so I hope the community feels heard about this. These plans, people can come and complain to you left and right, day and night. They're not perfect, but we cannot let perfect be the enemy of good. We've got to go forward with the plans. Perhaps that should be heard by some other voting bodies, but I'm not going to go there, right? Who do you think? Oh, yeah, that. But what I'm saying is, in order for us to get to a place where the wind's going to blow in a good direction, we have to have decided where the hell we're going. This committee is a part of that adventure. All right. And so what I would like to do for us now is call a vote on recommending these plans. And we have to do this in a somewhat arduous fashion here. Everybody got their little sheets? All right.
Do I need a new?
Did you write all over yours?
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take your pen away from you. But what we've got to do is, I guess we've got to adopt the program guide, then the revised policy map, and all the rest of the plans individually. So we're going to need a whole lot of motions here. All right. And I don't know how you all want to do this. Is somebody feeling motion reading-y, tastic-y? Second.
I say we gotta read the ones that we had.
Should we read the ones that you had?
Yeah.
All right, we should read the ones that you had.
I nominate Rebecca.
Okay, we will get through this. Oh, okay. Is there something I need to, we just need to read the consistency statement, and that will be
You need.
no, you need to make a motion, then read the consistency statement.
No, I think you have, do I have the script? If you agree with staff's recommendation.
Mhm.
With respect to each area plan and the consistency statement that they have drafted, then you can just simply read this, this first block, inserting the area plan or inserting the program guide or inserting the policy map. And it can be one motion, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I move to, having reviewed this, I
Okay.
remove that, and then
All right.
one
Let-
motion for each one.
One motion for each one, so still got to do 16 of these. All right, I was hoping we were gonna consent agenda this sucker. All right. All righty,
It's a one massive majestic motion.
all right, Melissa, we're gonna start on your side. Will you do the two plans that you had, but you're gonna need to read a consistency statement, insert plan number one, and then I will say, do I hear a motion that we adopt this, blah, 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 and then we'll, oh God, there's stuff on the back, oh, the consistency statement.
Yeah.
No, we don't have to read do we have to read the consistency statement too? It is before us.
No, they would insert.
Oh, but if the consistency statement is up there, we can just say as before us, right? So we don't have to read the consistency statement. Thank you. Yeah, sweet baby Jesus. What? Yeah, since you're first, you get to do that. Thank you. That's why they pay you the big bucks. All right, let's try this and let's see if we can get out of here before 2 in the morning. All right.
To approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the program guide, area plan, as it appears before us, and the adoption of data.
All right, has been moved by Commissioner Gaston. Do I hear a second?
Second, Wilden.
All right, then motion by Commissioner Gaston, properly seconded by Wilden. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. One down. Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Round two.
All right, this is like the rumble in the jungle. We got Foreman and we got Ali. Go ahead.
consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this. I move that we recommend approval of the plan as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Wilden.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Gaston and seconded by Commissioner Wilden. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're cooking with gas, people. All right, Melissa, what two did you have? Is that going to be a problem for you, Aaron?
We can find it.
Okay.
North Inner is the third.
All right, do North Inner first because it's on the screen.
Consider the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan. I move that we recommend approval of the North Inner Community Area Plan as it appears before us and the adoption of this statement.
It's been moved by Commissioner Gaston. Do I hear a second?
Second, Russell.
All right, it's been properly moved by Commissioner Gaston, seconded by Commissioner Russell. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Your next one was Northeast Inner. All right, go for it.
The Inner. And having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the Northeast Inner Community Area Plan as it appears before us and the adoption of consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Gaston and seconded by Commissioner Russell. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That plan passes unanimously. Now we're off to Commissioner Wilden, and you had, what was your first one?
West Middle.
All right.
Having reviewed the West Middle Community Area Plan and recommended edits and having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the West Middle Community Area Plan as it appears before us.
And adoption.
And adoption of the consistency statement. That was weird. As it appears before.
Hey, Russell.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Wilden, and this is going to be long, folks. And seconded by Commissioner Russell. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And your second one was?
Having reviewed the West Outer Community Area Plan and recommended edits, and having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the West Outer Community Area Plan as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement. As it appears before us.
It's been moved by Commissioner Wilden and seconded by Commissioner Russell. But that was the last one you had to do. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. So we're rolling. Commissioner Millen, which ones did you have?
Okay, East Inner, East Middle, and Outer.
I didn't much.
Okay. Having reviewed the East Inner Community Area Plan and recommended edits, having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the East Inner Community Area Plan as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement. Is that it? As it appears before us.
It's been moved by Commissioner Millen and seconded by Commissioner Russell. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously, and we're on to East, Middle, and Outer.
Having reviewed the East, Middle, and Outer Community Area Plans and recommended edits, having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the East, Middle, and Outer Community Area Plan as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Whoa, starting to turn into a steel cage death match on seconds here. It's been moved by Commissioner Millen and rapidly seconded by Commissioner Gaston. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that one passes unanimously. And Now we're on to Commissioner Russell, and which ones do you have?
North, middle, and outer, northeast, middle, outer. Let's go. Hey, don't take away my secrets. Having reviewed the north, middle, and outer community area plan and recommended edits, and having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the north, middle, and outer community area plan as it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second. We did not plan that. I thought you were gonna do it and then you didn't do it, and then I did it. I'm sorry.
That has been moved by Commissioner Russell and seconded by Commissioner Wilden. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're good.
Having reviewed the northeast, middle, and outer community area plan and recommended edits, and having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the northeast, middle, and outer community area plan as it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
It's been moved by Commissioner Russell and seconded by Commissioner Gaston. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. What do we got?
Southwest Middle. Having reviewed Southwest Middle Community Area Plan and recommendation edits, and having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move we recommend the approval of the Southwest Middle Community Area Plan as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Segundo, Russell.
All right, thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Caprioli and properly seconded by Commissioner Russell. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay.
All right.
Southwest Outer.
Okay.
Having reviewed the Southwest Outer Community Area Plan and recommendation edits, and having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend the approval of the Southwest Outer Community Area Plan as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Seconded Millen.
It's been moved by Commissioner Caprioli and seconded by Commissioner Millen. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Commissioner Lansdale.
Starting with South Middle. Having reviewed the South Middle Community Area Plan and recommended edits, having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move we recommend the approval of South Middle Community Area Plan as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Do I hear a second?
Second Millen.
It's been moved by Commissioner Lansdale, seconded by Commissioner Millen. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Lansdale, having reviewed the South Outer Community Area Plan and recommended edits, having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend the approval of the South Outer Community Area Plan as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second.
I'm gonna have to give you guys some time.
Melissa gets.
Okay, Melissa gets this one. It's been motioned by Commissioner Lansdale and seconded by Commissioner Gaston. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously, and I will do last but not least with South Inner. Having reviewed the South Inner Community Area Plan and recommended edits, having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the South Inner Community Area Plan as it appears before us, and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second, Russell.
It's been moved by Commissioner Welton and seconded by Commissioner Russell. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously, and we will do West Inner to close this party out. Having reviewed the West Inner Community Area Plan and recommended edits, having considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this plan, I move that we recommend approval of the West Inner Community Area Plan as it appears before us and adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us. This has been properly moved by Commissioner Welton and finally approved by Commissioner Gaston, who seemed quiet and did not want to speak up. All of those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously, and I think we've knocked these all out. I hope someone was keeping score at home.
Motion to close.
All right, so, yeah. I want to thank everybody for their hard work on this. Thanks the staff and the commissioners both for their hard work. We are, because we don't want to stay here until the end of time, do I hear a motion for us to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn, Wilden.
That has been accepted.
Second,
Thank you.
second.
Okay, some people. He had to second something. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, everybody. Get out, just go view the beautiful sign on top of the Wells Fargo.
Beautiful, beautiful big sign.